In this video, we'll cover a common pitfall you'll likely run into when using transitions. The code from the previous video only works in super simple scenarios. For example, when the album art stays the same throughout the entire app. Let's go back into activity album detail.xml. So we can see here in the image view near the top that we are hard coding the source for the image view. In real life, it won't be this simple. The album art usually changes from one to another when the image is loaded from a database or from the internet. Our transition will behave a bit strange in this case. We can actually see this already by tapping on any album other than the first one. So for example, if I go back to the list and tap on the second album here, okay, it's good so far, but watch what happens when I tap on the track. We switch everything. We switch the image and the colors and everything. Now these colors are changing because we are also dynamically setting those for each album. Back in album detail activity, scroll down to the populate method. This is called to populate the details of this view each time we tap on an album in the main activity. So here the first two lines are setting up the album image. Then we have a helper method to reduce the size of the album artwork. And then we call another helper method to colorize from the image. So scrolling down, so inside this method we're using something called the palette to sample colors from the image and use them in the layout. This generates a palette of colors to use, which we can then apply to things like the background color for the title panel, track panel, and the fab. It's a really nice design touch. Check the teacher's links for more information on how to use the palette. So back to our example, why did we revert to the hard-coded value from the layout? It turns out that if we create a scene from a layout file and run the transition, all the children of the transition root will be removed and recreated. Since the framework does not retain the states of the removed children, the image of the new album art is therefore set to the default from the layout file instead of the image set during runtime. To fix this, we need to manually restore the states of the views when the expanded scene just starts. We can call the populate method again on a certain action here for the expanded scene. So I'm going to add a few lines, and then I want to say expanded scene.setEnter action. And this takes something called a runnable as a parameter. You have likely seen this before in other courses here, but we'll type a new runnable, and it's going to execute the code inside this run method. And in here, we just want to call populate. Now, another tricky issue is that since some views are recreated, the corresponding fields bound by butter knife no longer refer to the views on the screen. We have to bind our fields again, otherwise even populating it wouldn't solve this problem. So we want to say, just like we did in onCreate, butterknife.bind, and then we pass in the context album detail activity.this. All right, so now let's try this code, run it, and we'll do two tests. First, I'm going to expand the lyrics for the first album. Okay, there we see that the colors are the same, the album art shrank, and the lyrics came up, just what we wanted. And now let's see how it looks for the second album. Tap on the second, tap on the track. There we go. Colors are the same and the same album art. Now the lyrics and some of these are just placeholder text that I'm using. I didn't populate this dynamically, but in a real app this would be updated as well. Let's go over what we've learned so far about transitions. The transitions framework is a high-level API built on top of property animations and meant to make it even easier to create animations. We can define snapshots called scenes for different states of the entire screen or a group of views. The framework will take care of creating animators for all the individual views accordingly. This saves us a lot of code if there are many views involved. We can easily use a layout file to create each scene, but remember to be careful because the old views will be removed and then recreated from the new layout.